Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. I do want to let you know we are just going to hold for a few minutes to make sure that everyone has time to enter. Current plan is we'll start about 2 or 3 minutes after the hour. And for those of you that are here right on the dot, please do complete the poll that Gabriella just posted in the chat. It's just a way of us measuring the metrics for this session, so we'd really appreciate your feedback. And for those of you that are here early, I will also apologize because you'll get this message from me again in just a few minutes. All right, it looks like the attendance numbers have kind of stabilized for right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, for those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the librarian office hours this afternoon. I'm very happy to be with you all here today. Just a few things about me. My name is David Oinby. I'm a data analyst and the library support specialist for Edelweiss. And sorry, I thought there was a hand raise. I think that might have been an error. I do apologize. I joined Above the Tree Line, the makers of Edelweiss, about 3 years ago. And I previously spent more than 15 years in academic and public libraries, primarily as an acquisition and technical services librarian during that whole time. I was also a pretty dedicated Edelweiss user at several of my past jobs. So now I get to share that knowledge with all of you as to how we can make the most out of Edelweiss of librarians and hopefully make a better reader advisory and collection development experience for all involved for it. Couple of house cleaning notes first. Everyone say a polite hello in the chat to Gabriella. She is my chat co-host this afternoon. We're very happy to have her. If you are just joining us too, please complete the poll that is shared in the chat. That's just a way for us to collect some metrics to make sure these sessions are useful for the librarians to attend and see if we can continue to have them going forward. Probably not anytime soon, though. I know how summer reading works, so if we have another one, it'll likely be later this year, probably in the fall, very late summer, once everyone has had some time to rest and recover. I'm going to share my screen and we will dig in from there. So just another quick note, we are only going to be focusing on the free tools today. So this is everything that you can get just by having an Edelweiss account at no additional cost, either to you as a user or your library as an organization. We do have some subscription products, but we won't be focusing on those today. If you do have any interest in them, I'll be sharing how you can reach out and we can have that conversation separately. I do want to thank everyone that sent some questions in beforehand through the form that we sent out with the meeting invitation. I read through all of them. Those that I can address in the session today, I will take care of. There were a couple that came that I'm just going to give a very brief shout out about where you would possibly be able to use the experience through the paid product. And hopefully that is not too much of an interruption for everyone. It's going to be about a 20 to 30-minute session of me walking through the free parts of the site. After that, I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions. If there is anything pressing, like if my audio goes out or there's something that you want me to call out or focus on, please just shoot Gabriella a message. She'll make sure to flag me down and get my attention. And also we'll be keeping track of any questions that come in so I can double back to it during our question and answer session. I think that's it. So we will go ahead and get started. So first, As you can see on the screen, this is the homepage for Edelweiss. I am using a demo account, so this is sort of a little bit of a funky data, play around data. So if we see some oddities, I'll make sure to flag it as something that you may not experience in the site itself. But what you get here is just your landing page that you get after registering for an account. You can see that you can make it work however you want to for you. What you're seeing here are more or less the default widgets that you get when you first create an account. And a lot of them are going to be like a narrowed down view of other tools that we're going to focus on today. So an example, publisher list corresponds with your publisher bar. Digital review copies correspond to your review copies. Notifications will be messages that you may get either from other members of your organization, or if you work with any reps directly. And finally, you have new catalogs where you can see what catalogs have most recently been published. You can move all these around. Example like this, there is a little bit of snapping, but if you prefer to have your digital review copies over here, or you want to make sure that you have new copies first, you can sort of mix and match and play around with all these widgets. You can also add other ones if you just click on add a widget, and then you have different ones. So you'll see catalogs, notifications, things like that, tags or shelves. Some of these will make a little bit more sense after I've gone through the presentation today. Again, if you have any more questions about it specifically, please let me know and I'll make sure to answer them in due time. So just starting out, what we are known for, of course, are our digital review copies. I'm sure if most of you have had very little experience with Edelweiss, you are probably aware of that. You can always access review copies by just coming over here to the review copies tab or the review copies widget. So I'm just going to go into this because it gives me a little bit more options, and it's a lot bigger when you're trying to display to a group of people. You can see that one, I probably have left the filter a little bit too large. We do have a timeout. If your filter is going to produce more than 10,000 results, second, I created it still on old view because I was doing some testing. You can filter down. Come on. Filter down, because if you get a search that's going to produce more than about 10,000 results, you get a message that says, do you really want to do this? Perhaps you want to target something down. So you can add sort of filters to this. Like if you can see when I was loading here, I was looking at what we could want to do if we want to look at pub date or price range or categories or anything like that. So I am going to go just target on here because I know there was a question about honors. So we are going to look at the Coretta Scott King Awards and see if any of them may be available as a digital review copy. Hey, look, there's one already. So you can see here we have Kwame Crash's The Underworld. I am terrible at pronunciation, so apologies if I did butcher that name. But you can see here if you wanted to have a review copy of this, you could. This yellow icon means that you have to request access. I do know there were some questions about like how to improve, how to make sure like the publishers knew why you were wanting to review a copy. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to request this review copy. I do know one of the questions that came in was that there are some people in the audience today or registrants that will be watching the recording later that said that they are like YALSA members or have award committee reviews that they want to bring to the attention of publishers when they're submitting a request. If you have anything like that, I recommend including it in your overall profile. So you can see here, this being a new account, the profile strength is incomplete. I'm just going to click on this pencil icon and set up a review for here. So book club. I also for the something like that. And you could also do like your role summary. This is something that you would definitely want set to librarian. You can also add your preferred pronouns, anything like that. You can also add links to your website. So your blog, Facebook, anything like that. You can include your Goodreads account. I will let everyone know that unfortunately we no longer have the ability to move reviews back and forth to Goodreads for you. Amazon sunsetted that functionality about 2 years ago, and I have no interest in supporting it. Now, the good thing is whenever you're done with this, you save it and it's good to go. It's associated with your account. you probably want to do better than me. Fair is okay, but you really want to get up to excellent. So maybe be a little bit more expansive, but in the interest of time, I'm going to narrow it down a bit. And when I come back to here, you will see now it says my strength is fair. So now I just have to request the specific title. So this is slightly different. Evaluation purpose could be your acquisition, anything like that. You could provide more specific details like I'm interested in acquiring a specific number of copies, or this is for program, anything like this. More granularity is more likely to catch the publisher's attention and approve your request. I will let you know that as a librarian, you already have an inside job. All our publishers on the site are a lot more generous with review copies for librarians than they are for just like a general reviewer or blogger. The other thing that is very good for your account, in addition to making sure you spell out what your selection responsibility or programming responsibilities are, is to make sure that your user account is tied to your library's overall organization account. That's something that if you don't have an account, you're looking to create it later, reach out to your team or reach out to us at support@abovthetreeline.com, and we can tell you if your library has an account established with us. Most already do, but we know there's people leave, people move on to different jobs, they forget if they were the user admin or something like that. So we may need to help your organization kind of reclaim that account for you. But it really is, after just being a librarian, the greatest tool. If a publisher sees that you're a librarian and you're at a specific library, they're much more generous when reviewing these requests. I can say if you do get denied your request, or if for some reason the request expires because typically it reached the street date, you can reach out to us. We'll tell you what we know, but we do not have any control over things like approvals or anything like that. We can just help you with any technical issues. All right, so in addition to this request option, let me make sure I clear my filter. You have a couple of other options for how you can access review copies on Edelweiss. You can see here, in addition to these two requests, which would be like that, you would have to put a request for any of those. You have to download. These are ones that a publisher has chosen to make readily available for anyone that's on Edelweiss. You don't have to submit a request. You can see it has a green bar, and you have an option to either download, where you can see here you're downloading a DRC format that will typically be a Adobe Digital Editions supported reader, like a Kindle, iPad, something like that. You can change your format to Kindle if you want, and then this will save and continue for you, so it can set forward. You can do it as one time, or if you check this set as preferred, that will be your preferred option for all future downloads. Now, if you are a children or graphic novel, or perhaps photography, or like something, a very image heavy title selector, the other option is really going to be your friend. You see this open book? That's Edelweiss Reader. You can also see it on the left over here as an option to where you could filter just to those. Edelweiss Reader is great for those image heavy titles, because I'm sure if you've ever worked in like a digital interlibrary loan or something, you know how frustrating it can be to try to get a Kindle or an Adobe Digital Editions book to display correctly if it's very image rich. But if you just click on any of our Edelweiss Reader ones, you get this nice little pop-up browser setting that will let you move through the book in real time. So you can go as far as you want. And let's say you were reading at the desk and you got called away or something like that. You could exit out of this. And since you were signed into your account, when you go back to Edelweiss Reader and click on it, you'll find that you're right back where you started. So you don't have to worry about losing your place at all. It's a great little tool. Like I said, it's definitely a very valuable one if you're doing a lot of selection for your children's or graphic novel collections. Anything image heavy like this is a lot more stable than some of the other options for down. Okay, so in addition to that, I know that we also have catalogs and ordering. I'm going to kind of take these two things up together. And if there's something I need to focus on, again, please feel to call me out in the chat and make sure that I make this as usable experience for you as possible. So the first option that we really have for this, publishers. And let's just do, who do I want to pick on today? Do Wiley. I was hoping to name with something earlier. So you can search for publishers here. You're going to go to a publishers page that's going to have all their catalogs. So you can see, like right now on the left, you're looking at all catalogs. You can see everything they have coming out. You also, if the publisher has a strong profile with us, they should have an information page. And I'm clicking on this because this gives a lot of contact information. There are two reasons I want to call this out today. I had a question about merchandising kits in the pre-registration questions. I will bet this is someone that has had a merchandising kit offer from probably Scholastic, but maybe also Thorndike. There is not a way to directly request merchandising kits in Edelweiss. We've communicated how this can sometimes be misconstrued to some of the publishers that do this. If you're interested in those merchandising kits and you don't have a direct contact, come to a page like this, look at your sales representatives, see if they have a library sales representative. Some of them have a specific rep. You'll notice that Wiley refers people to Ingram, but you could also reach out to like a specific regional rep and say, hey, I'm a librarian. You mentioned merchandising kits for Title X, and see how they can make that happen for you. If it's someone that says wholesaler or customer care center, wholesaler would be just reaching out to your inside sales rep at Ingram, Baker and Taylor, Brodart, EBSCO, anything like that. But that's a way that you can reach out for those titles and make sure that those merchandising kits and get what you want. So now, if you go back to all catalogs, you can take a look and see both old and new. It is the most current catalog is going to get you farther out in the future. Most of our major publishers are working at least 3 months out. So quite a few of them are more like 4 to 6. That's why you can see that we already have November, fall, or winter titles that are being geared up for a lot of publishers. And you can come here and see the overall title view. So a couple things to note is that this is a little bit compressed, but if there are ones that you really want to delve in on, so example, if you want to see content, you can get here. It's going to give you a summary of the book. All this is publisher-driven information that we get directly through a metadata feed, most likely Onyx for larger publishers like Wiley, and there's some other options for smaller publishers. You can also see if they've provided any images. An example, you have a couple of preview images that you can look at of interior illustrations. You can see if there are any reviews that have been provided, probably a little bit less likely with something this far out. You could also submit a review if this is something that you like, got a DRC for, want to say that you're really excited for it or something like that. And finally, you can add titles to shelves. So these can be ones that you're reading, anticipating, highly anticipating. You can also add titles to a collection. Now, collections are basically kind of like a catalog for you. The only people that can see a collection generally are the user and anyone they've shared to. So it may be a way for you all to sort of organize a wish list or something inside your all's working group, however you handle selections, like if that's all tech services or you have departments passing back and forth. I do know one thing that we're seeing a lot of increased use for in Edelweiss is that it makes it a lot easier for very widely distributed library consortiums or branches and main libraries to coordinate their workflow without everyone needing access to iPage or Baker and Taylor, where I understand you're still charged for seats. But this is a way that you all can focus on forthcoming and upcoming titles without having to worry about that. And as a technical service librarian, I'm probably even a minority, but I didn't mind iPage. I really liked the interface. I can't say that was always a shared experience among the selection librarians I worked with. I got a lot of blank looks trying to walk them through how to build orders in iPage sometimes. But yeah, so let's just say we're going to build out a little. So we're going to create an ad. We're going to add this to our collection. And I'm going to also grab a couple of others. So what I'm doing here is I am just clicking on some of these titles I think would be good. To add to collections, test order, add this too. So like that specific title, so you could go through this page by page if you wanted to. If you know that, like you're looking at Scholastics, this is a catalog of 15 and your library always wants everything Scholastics puts out, then you could just go to the same actions again and do select all, select the entire page for you. You could do the same thing. You can also do a couple other things here. In addition to collections, you can add tags. Tags are just a way that you can keep track of your workflows as well. So I could do like fall 2025 order. So enter and save. See, I've gotten all those with the selection right there. Now, this we did through publishers. You do have the option too, if you prefer to just look at catalogs broadly. You can go over here to the catalogs tab. Here you go. We have every catalog that meets your specific criteria. This is where I'm going to touch on filters a little bit for you too. So like when you set up an account for your overall library, you can have as many users as you want. The other thing you can do is you can have as many filters as you want. I know I've worked with some librarians for a number of years, and while I think I have a lot of filter, I will help them with their account, and I will log in and see 1,500 filters, so good for them. I have no idea how they manage it, but I'm glad they're making use of the tools. So we're going to do let's do kids astronomy. That I think is size for what I want to do today. What this is going to do in the filters view is pull out everything that's relevant across all catalogs. But you can also, if you're back over here in catalogs, add the same filter over here. And then like when you're in this catalog, you can review other information, all that jazz. You see, you can also add it as favorite. But what you can also do in the catalog view, and I was going to touch on this earlier, you'll notice over here, I have information for Maine, North, South, East. This is kind of our like faux branches for this test account. And I'm going to create an order. I'm going to go over here to my order tab. 25. You'll see a couple of options here if your library does have purchase orders that you all address as selectors, or if you're using this as technical service department, you can go ahead and put that in here. That will be most of what you had. You are going to see a pop-up here that I will go into when I try to save this. You'll notice this says that it's not been shared with a rep. This is because most stores, retailers that we work with are going to go through a rep. There are a few library reps that work in Edelweiss. If you have those, please do assign it. But for the overwhelming majority of our librarians, this step is not necessary. Okay, back up here to my catalog, go back into Simon & Schuster. Now you can see that these are orange, so I can populate them. Let's say I want 2 copies of this for Maine. I want 1 each for North South. I want 1 for Maine. And you can see I click out of these. I want to go back to the order or go back to the other catalog I could here, but if I go back to the order, I will now have titles. You'll see my test order here. I have 3 titles, units of 5. Quick note on this price here, that is just the retail price. It does not account for any discounts that you may get through your consortium, through Ingram directly. But you can see if I go in here, let's say I'm done with this. I'm a selecting librarian and I know I want to send this over to whomever places the orders for me. If I went to action, I did select all, and I did export to file. We'll see a couple of options here. I forgot to enable the Ingram page for this. I do apologize. Generic order form is just kind of a generic CSV sheet, but we do have direct files supported for Baker and Taylor, Ingram iPage, and Brodart's bit. So these are options that they're not enabled for your org and someone can't find it for you. Just reach out to us on the support desk. I or one of my colleagues would be happy to quickly add that for you. But you could do create this file and bam, download it to your computer. You would have a nice little attachment that you could send by email or load directly into one of those ordering platforms, and whoever is over your ordering can just populate a cart or list depending on the platform right from there. The only thing you do still have to do is if you have any processing codes, your internal team would have to take care of that. We are interested in adding that as a feature in the future, but it's not ready to go yet. So it does cut out an entire step though. If you have an order of 50 or 60 titles, I guarantee you whoever does that order for you is going to be very happy that they just have to drop it all into a simple order and not have to go and refine those all again in the vendor or wholesaler site. So I'm making sure that I've hit on the notes. Okay, another note about filters that came up during this. So there was a question from some of our selectors asking about looking for titles based on Dewey or Library of Congress subject headings. Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of publishers do not provide us with either. They primarily send us BISAC ones. So that can be a challenge. You'll notice here that you do see Dewey here, if you are a subscriber, there are some other tools that are option for you. But if you're looking for subject areas and you don't subscribe, you are pretty much going to be focusing on BISAC. So you would have to know what BISAC codes are most relevant to like biographies or the 700 levels. It's a pretty straightforward way to do that. You can even create filters that are done by specific publishers in addition to that BISAC, so you can like quickly browse through the catalogs for you. You can, if you are a children or young adult selections, you can use Lexile levels. Quick note on that is that it does not appear in the title view, but you are able to apply it to a filter, and the filter will look at any of that information that has been provided us by publishers. It's not universal. We do have some publishers that don't send us Lexile, but a lot of them do, particularly if they're in the library or like children's space. Like I know Scholastic, Norton, Thorndike, they have pretty robust Lexile levels, so you could use those in those subject areas. And then, like I said, you can have as many filters as you want. You can keep them all here. You can apply them throughout the site. You can apply them to catalogs. You can apply them when you're looking at your review copies as kind of your tools to take on as much as you want. You have the ability to look at reviews. If you are networked into your library's overall organization, it can be a collection development tool as you. It seems to be about I'd say about 40% of our selection groups I've at least heard from or gotten some feedback from like this that can see what other people are reading and things of that nature. Others are just more interested in like sharing it through tags or lists. Now you'll notice I mentioned collections. I've not gotten back to that. I will touch on that real fast because I know I promised about 20 or 30 minutes with plenty of time for questions. I want to make sure that do that for you all. So you will see that we have some young adult collections here that I and some people have created, including one for you also because someone was nice about that. And I just got updated one that we had for another account. But you can put this together, and if it's shared, so like if you share it either direct link to your collection or you share it with another member of your org ID. Sorry, you know, fumble-footed today. You can have the option to share these, so you can like have a collaborative catalog that you can use to build orders and start that initial wish list. I know that's a lot of information. I hope I haven't been either too fast or too slow. One thing I did forget to mention at the beginning that I will say now is that this session is being recorded, and if you register, you will get a link. So even if you know someone that's not here today, you can tell them that they should get an email link, and I'm sure Gabriella will also be pushing it out as well, so you can have another access to it. With that being said, thank you for letting me ramble, and I would love to answer your questions. Gabriella, did we get any in the chat yet?
We got a few in the chat, and I just will say aloud, we are recording this and it's going to be sent out in our librarian newsletter. So make sure you're subscribed. I put the link to subscribe in the chat. So the questions we received, can you export your collections to Ingram iPage?
Yes.
Okay.
So I didn't enable it, I just wasn't thinking, but where I showed you in orders that you could export, there should be an option also for Ingram iPage that would be right here. And if your library account has an active user admin, they can give you permissions. If there isn't an active user admin or someone that's having some difficulty, just reach out to us at support@aboutthetreeline and we can make sure that you have access to that. But it's Baker and Taylor, Title Source 360, Ingram iPage, and Brodart's Bibs are the three wholesale platforms that we have active support for right now.
Perfect. Okay. So there actually has been a few questions about honors. So when do you add honors like a Kirkus Star review to the book record? I need to make sure that I consider all adult fiction books that get starred reviews from Library Journal, Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, in each month. So that's one question. And then how would I create a filter to view these books, assuming the honors were entered?
We actually, in the new list view, have a much streamlined function for honors. You can see that I had one for I looked at the Coretta Stock King Awards real fast. And in answer to when we add them, The short answer is when whomever is responsible sends them to us. Library Journal, I'm pretty confident sends us those at least once a month. Some of the other ones like Kirkus, there's some space about it, but as soon as we get it, one of my colleagues on the support desk is very, very good about making sure that we get it uploaded as quickly as possible. And like you can see, here are all the list of supported honors that we currently have. So if you were interested in a filter for these, you would just go through and select whatever you want and save it as a filter. And then you would have perpetual access, like name it like something like award winners or honors winners. And then you could use that to quickly look at the titles that we have available in Edelweiss.
Here's a great question. Would David be able to show us how he would look for cookbooks if he were an adult nonfiction subject selector?
Sure, let me see if I can do it. I did that on my last account, didn't move that filter over. So it's going to be, we'll fly by the seat of our pants. Going to go over to filters, add a new filter. We're going to say cookbooks. I won't worry about vendor. We're going to go with subject. Go to cooking. And I could just have one that's overall cooking. I'm sure it's going to do a lot of adults. We're going to go with courses and dishes and entertaining holidays. And I'm going to save this filter. Let's see what we get. Again, this is something that you can add this filter, like if you want to narrow it to the 6-month range, like I probably should have done. Vacation date, today looking out 2 months. We'll also say that we want front lists that we're not interested in. So yeah, let's look at this. So there you go. That's at least a way to get started. And you saw that you did have some options there based on BISAC readings that you could look at, like one specifically for kids and things like that nature. That would be the better option that I would think of. And it is, since you have as many as you want, you can change them at any time. It's something that you can kind of dial in. If you were a subscriber, I'd say don't make your filters too complex. But if you're working with the free version and you stick with your BISAC headings, relevant publication dates, and if you want to maybe throw publishers in there, that would be the best thing to do.
And I'll just pop in and say, just as a cookbook lover, I have this filter and I apply it to look for review copies. We actually do have quite a few cookbook review copies, and the reader is a great place to explore them. Another question is there a way to search by publisher?
Yes, yeah. So you can either search for a specific publisher here, and you can see that we have 408 in the US market that are searchable. You can also create a filter with the Edelweiss vendor tab, and you can see here you have a complete list that you can add as many or as few as you want to filter specific publishers. If you're just doing one, I would recommend the publisher search. Like if you're wanting to just look at what Scholastic or someone is happy, that would be where I recommend just searching in publisher, because you're going to be able to narrow down and quickly get anything that they have available as catalog in Edelweiss.
Okay. I have some more questions. One of the challenges I've had in getting buy-in for using Edelweiss more widely in my system is the idea that, quote, not all titles are listed in Edelweiss. So if you're relying on it, you'll miss some titles you might want. And I've noticed when importing ISBN lists from external sources, sometimes my collection ends up with fewer titles than the source. Can you share anything librarians should know about what titles may not appear in Edelweiss so we can make informed choices about what we should use the system for and what we should keep up with elsewhere?
So in order to have a title listed on Edelweiss, the ISBN has to have been populated by a publisher and available in a public catalog in Edelweiss. So that can be a limitation. Where you're probably going to run into some problems is if you are looking at an extensive backlist. So you're looking at you're looking to replace titles that may be a couple years old, and it's either something that you would have to go through like a wholesaler's back catalog or something, you may have difficulty finding that. I would not be that worried about it looking for any new titles, like anything that's forthcoming or current within the last couple of years. That wasn't an issue really I experienced. The exception to that, I will say, is if you're dealing with very small publishers. And what typically happens there is not that it is not available in Edelweiss, but that it may be hidden under a different name. An example, we get a stupendously large amount of titles from smaller publishers that are distributed through Spark or like Ingram or Baker and Taylor that are a press and name, but maybe don't actually print their own books. So librarians will sometimes look for that specific press and miss that it is considered under Ingram at Edelweiss because they don't necessarily have a separate account with us. But that would be what I would watch out for is like anything particularly old or anything that is from a really obscure press. But if you're looking for anything from any major publisher in the United States, that includes both academic and like general press, I wouldn't be too worried about it. And if it is something that you see, feel free to reach out with us. We can see if there's any search tips for a specific collection or group of titles that you're having trouble with. And I do know I can think of at least one situation where I was on the support desk where we had a publisher join Edelweiss. Some librarians were like, we won't be able to look at the titles there. So maybe consider reaching out to the publisher and see if they can do something about it too. So anything else?
I don't think that there's anything else, but we could take a beat to see if anybody else is writing a question. In the meantime, I'm gonna launch a poll. You can give feedback to us about how helpful this was. Jennifer's saying, where did you get to the list of honors? Do you mind showing that again?
No, not at all. So when I was in catalog or review copies, you should have the option to do this. You can see like you have all the options here, but if you're looking at review copies, it's one of the default ones that we have for a filter. If you click here, you get this popped up and it's underneath other filters. You can see that you have the whole list of honors. I do know there are some honors we don't support. We have a whole list, all that are supported in our help guide, our knowledge base, which I did forget to show you. If you're having trouble with anything on Edelweiss, if you see this question mark in the upper right, you click on here, you'll be immediately taken to our overall support center. You can go to any of these resources for librarians. I would recommend if you have new staff pointing out and making sure they have this librarian training page because it can answer a lot of questions. It's kind of like a Edelweiss guided tour, something like we did today, but you have options to either watch or read because we try to support all types of learners. So that can be a great way to get people comfortable with the platform. And of course, you can always reach out to us if you encounter any problems or anything like that. It'll probably be me that you hear from the most, but it could also be one of my colleagues. But we're always on hand to get as much information as we can.
I have another question for you, David, actually. How would we look for all books in a series?
So you can search by series in the upper right. It is based on publishers sending that information. So it typically is nested in the title display. Not that anything here would have it. So you can see here you have title information that you could look. This would be how you could narrow it down because if there's an entry like this, that's how the publisher has defined the series, and that is most likely how we will have it nested under.
Okay, David, I think that we're all set.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to give everyone back some time. And like Gabriella said, there will be a link to this webinar coming out in our next newsletter. If you were registered, you should also get a link, I believe, once it's populated. And please, before you leave today, do complete the poll so we can get some metrics about these sessions and determine that we are getting the most out of them, and if we possibly need to adjust the frequency. Again, I think we're going to consider having at least one more this year. The announcement will be determined, of course, not in the summer, since you all are so busy during the summer. Thank you all for coming today.